Hey buddies, Anya here, and we're gonna do some painting today for Lunar New Year. I hope you guys are all having a happy and clean New Year, starting everything off right. I am doing a painting inspired by the Year of the Rabbit or the Year of the Cat. I was sketching out and planning this painting, and I couldn't help but giggle every time I thought of the Year of the Rabbit, because one of my friends is Vietnamese, and she always makes sure that we remember that sometimes it's the Year of the Cat. We don't have a rabbit, and I think she is a cat, not a rabbit. So I don't know, but I always smile about that. So yes, it's the Year of the Rabbit, but we also have our cat represented, of course. So I am doing a painting inspired, and I just wanted to have fun with this. It's not for anything except for celebration and fun and just some good vibes out into the air this weekend. So I am marking off my characters and my details with a micron pen today, and normally when I do a watercolor painting I don't do this, and it kind of threw me off a little. I was like, no, I'm definitely gonna ink. The number one reason is because I'm gonna film this, and it's hard to see if you don't ink things and you just have light pencil marks. And you need light pencil marks with watercolor, otherwise they show up under the watercolor. So just decided we're gonna ink everything off and get rid of those pencil marks, and just for your guys' benefit. So I hope you appreciate my rough inking that's going on here. So yeah, now we need to get rid of those pencil marks, and in honor of a clean new year, we're going to brush all of those pencil marks away. And I have pre-made some washes to paint with, and I'm only using 3 brushes for this whole painting, and one of them is incorrect. I used the wrong brush, and it is this this flat wash brush that I'm using. It's not very wide, and it was wrong. I made a mistake, and you can kind of already see I'm doing a wet on dry technique for the sky in the background, and you can see the brush strokes are not going well. And so I made 2 mistakes. The first is I did wet paint on dry paper. I should have done wet on wet, and I used the wrong brush. So I quickly switched to this round brush. I was not planning on using this brush. It was nearby. When I started, I realized what I needed to do, and this is actually one of my gouache brushes. I don't usually use this brush for watercolor, but it was there, and I had it, so I used it, and I think I ended up doing most of the rest of the painting with this brush. So anyway, so I fix it. So I will show you what I should have done for the sky, because I realized my mistake, so I'm just trying to fix it and darken everything and smooth everything out with my round brush. But this is also the wrong brush. I probably should have used a bigger round brush. But this is what I had nearby when I was working, so this is what I used. Okay, this is what I should have done with the sky, but I didn't, and I'm going to do it with the ground. So I've got switch my washes out, got a different wash, and I'm wetting the paper with a clean brush first and getting in around everywhere where I want the color to go, but avoiding the character's legs where I don't want the color to go. And now I'm going to do wet on wet. See how much better that is? And here's the other thing that I should have done with the sky. Woohoo! We're gonna go upside down. That's right, everyone, we're painting upside down. I'm doing this mostly because to fix my mistake with the sky, but also because I do want the 2 different washes of sky and ground to blend into each other, so there's kind of a shadowy effect of, it's very clear that there is a ground and there is a sky, but we're not real, it's kind of blurry about where they start. So yeah, so there's a lot of back and forth. I let my background dry completely so that there's no risk of any bleeding going in now that I'm going to start with coloring in the characters. I'm starting with Cat because they are the darkest, and they have a mix of black and brown and grays to form their fur-like, not quite pure black, but also somewhere in between kind of furry texture. I need to make sure that both Kitty and Bunny have a clear pink nose and bright eyes, because there's going to be some light later on, and we want to make sure that their eyes are very there, and the color is not muddied at all by any of the shading that we're going to do. So I used a little detail as well for the inside of Bunny's ears, even though it doesn't look like either of those are showing. I still wanted to put it in just for some shadow effect it comes across later in the finished product, but you know, if you're really being literal, you're like, well, you can't really see that. Yeah, but you also can. So white is always the hardest thing to paint because it's white. Why don't you just leave the paper white? And the truth is that white things really aren't white. So we did a mix of some very pale colors and then moved them around Bunny to give some shading and some texture. Just like Cat, they've got a furry texture, so they needed some furriness, and just give some shading. So you can kind of see they dry a little off-white, little eggshell, little what other paint terms mean white but are just white. And now we're going to do light. So I'm mixing up a special yellow with some sparkles, and I'm going to start with the light source and just kind of give the halo effect around all the lanterns, and also where the light is going. So the light is on Bunny and the light is on Cat, and just kind of hit all those places that the light is hitting, making sure to not hit anywhere shadows are hitting. Next up, we're going to do the paper for the paper lanterns, and we just wanted kind of a white beigey color, so I used the same colors I used for Rabbit, just made them darker, and mixed with some shimmer beige pinky color, and and then blended that back in with more of the glowy yellow. Just to top everything off and make sure that the light is coming from all of the lantern and give it some depth and some shade. Speaking of shadows and shade, I at the last minute decided to throw in a little bit of red for contrast. It wasn't planned. I picked a red kind of at random and just went with it, and it turned out amazing. It's very orangey and gives kind of that Chinese lantern plant look that I didn't know I needed. Because there's light source, there needs to be shadow, so of course our characters need a little shadow. I don't normally give Boo a shadow, but in this case I felt like they're solid enough right now. They need a little bit of shadow. I always do Boo last when Boo is in a painting because just like white is very hard, Boo is somewhere between white and clear, so they need to pick up all the other colors that have been used and around them. So I like to do them last because once we've settled on all the colors, number one, and also once we've settled on all the things where they're coming from and where they're going to be picking that up. And then finished off with some shading, and I gave Boo a lot of shading in this. I think this is the most shading I've ever given Boo in a painting, and I couldn't be happier. For final touches, I'm going to use the same Micron pen and go back over all my line work because they kind of got covered up with some of the paint, which is actually effective in some places, so I kind of just left it in certain places, and but the places that I really wanted it to stand out, especially where the shading would be and against the light source to really show that they pop against the background. But I also wanted to fix Boo's eyes. I did their eyes very blank for this because I knew I wanted to show light in them, but it was a little too much, so they needed to go back over and darken them up, and then just making everything pop. It is a very simple and subtle effect, and yeah, don't skip it. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of watercolor painting, which is removing the tape. So satisfying. So satisfying. Yeah, never gets old. And then of course, we need to sign and date our work. Don't forget to sign and date your work. And then admire for memories and keepsakes to come. So I had fun doing this, and I hope you guys found some inspiration and have a happy and fortunate new year. And I will see you in the next one, Boo Buddies.